Hey guys, welcome back again to the channel. So obviously, as you can see from the title of the video and the thumbnail, we are on the part 2 of the video, or let's say the series, where I show you guys how you can make your old hard drive from at least 10 to maybe over 100 times faster than it is right now. Obviously, if you have the correct tools, or let's say the correct hardware to do that. And on the first part of this video, because obviously this is the second part, I showed you guys how you can create a cache from the RAM that you might have on your system, if you have enough RAM, obviously. So if you haven't watched that video, make sure to watch that video first and then come to this one, where I show you guys practically what speeds you can expect with the loading times of the games in general, because I guess that most of you guys use the normal spinning hard drives to keep the games and your data files in there. So you can definitely profit from this method if you have enough RAM or if you have a small SSD laying around. So this means that in this episode I'm going to show you practically the loading times of a couple of games, and first, I thought I should show you guys only one game, but since the video came out very long and I decided to divide the video in two parts, now this means that I can show you two games for the loading time, so you can see the difference. One game is going to be loaded, obviously first the games are going to be loaded from the normal hard drive, and then we're going to see the difference. One game is going to be loaded with a cache from the RAM system, and another game is going to be loaded with a cache from an SSD that I have found. And obviously today I'm going also to show you how you can create an SSD partition that you can use it as your cache for your normal hard drive. But before we do that, obviously let's go ahead and see what kind of speed we can expect from loading games from just the normal hard drive. And as you can see, this is the Primo Cache application that I use to make my hard drives cached with SSD or RAM. And as you can see, I have no partition created, so now we are over the normal hard drive. And the game which we are going to try is going to be Assassin's Creed first, and obviously you will have the timer somewhere to see the loading times. And I have already loaded this game 3 times in a row, so the system, the Windows and the hard drive itself can have time to load some of the game files into their own cache, because we have mentioned already that the system itself and the hard drive, they obviously have some kind of cache, but we all know that that cache is really a really small amount compared to what you can do with the RAM cache, or maybe add a whole SSD as cache to be able to speed up your normal hard drive. So yeah, it will not help. Let's say that the system cache and the hard drive cache that it has on its own, it will not help too much, especially with the loading times and obviously with the transfer times if you transfer big files. So we will go ahead right into the game. I will open the benchmark just to simulate a loading time of the game, but the benchmark, you have to keep in mind that the benchmark is way less heavier than the game itself. So if you load a game, if you play with a game, any other game, it doesn't mean this game in particular, but if you load the game, I think that would take even a longer time than the benchmark, because the benchmark, the system is set to where it should be, all the files are ready, where when you load a game, you can be in different places every time you load the game. So I am guessing that would take longer than the benchmark, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong, but this is just a guess. So now we will see, and I can definitely hear, obviously you cannot hear it, but I can definitely hear the hard drive working right now while loading the files, obviously, because the cache again of the system and the hard drive is really small. So yeah, the hard drive is working. Unfortunately, again, I cannot show you, but yeah, you get the idea. Okay, we will go ahead with with this until we get to the gate, and then we will stop the timer there, so we then can compare the loading times when we get into the SSD. So yeah, that is enough. So now let me close the game and go to the desktop, and I will first show you guys how you can create a partition on your SSD that you want to use as cache, and obviously add that to your old hard drive, so you guys can know the full way how to use your SSD as cache drive. Because on the first part I show you how you can use your RAM as cache, and here I'm going to show you how you can use your SSD. Okay, so now we are ready to go ahead and use our SSD as cache for our hard drive where I have the game, obviously, or where you have the game. And this is obvious. Just open the application, we click on create new cache, we select the hard drive that we want to speed up, which is going to be the same as I did with the RAM cache, 931, and obviously you will see the performance with the game for the RAM cache. Next we go to select the cache that we're going to use. Obviously we're not going to use RAM in this case, but we're going to use the SSD. So we go to level 2 cache, and then we select the SSD. Make sure to select the SSD that you want to use as cache, and make sure not to select an SSD or some other logical drive that you might destroy. So make sure, because it will need to get formatted. The cache that I want to use from SSD is this one in here. I have created a partition of 50 gigabytes, but yeah, it takes a little bit less when you create that. As you see in here, I have already created that. You select, you hit on format. Yes, obviously we are sure that we will delete the data, and the system is going to create that partition as a cache for this hard drive. We click on OK, and as you see, we have the level 2 storage created as cache from that SSD. We can select how much space we need to use as cache from this SSD, and this is the case where, for example, you want to use one SSD to be able to cache 1 or 2 or 3, or how many spinning hard drive that you might have that you want to cache. You can use the same SSD to be able to cache all of your hard drive if you want. Since I want to cache only one, let's say 48,000 or around 47 gigabytes that I want to use only for this hard drive in my case. Again, make sure that you leave level 1 cache or memory cache to 0, so we won't use the system RAM if you haven't enough. Obviously, we are going to leave everything as it is by default. We're not going into detail on the program, as I have already mentioned. So yeah, we click on start, and we have created our cache. That is it. It's that easy to create. Now our normal 1 terabyte hard drive where I have the games is cached by the SSD that I have installed on my system. So now I'm going to jump ahead, load the game a couple of times like I did with the normal hard drives, and then I'm going to show you the real benefits of the speed if you use a normal SSD as cache. The SSD is crucial, 250 gigabytes. It has a normal read and write speeds of around 450 to 500 megabytes, so yeah, at least double the speed of the normal hard drive. But anyway, we will see what benefits we're going to get by loading the games. So I'm going to close the application, load the game a couple of times, and then be with you guys right back where I show you the true potential of these games. Okay then, so I loaded the game a couple of times, so at least the system can have the time to put the files that it needed on the cache, SSD cache that we have just created. As you see in here, we are already with the hard drive in here cached from the SSD, and as you see in here, cache read, you have all the stats in here. You can see level 1 cache is disabled and level 2 cache in here is enabled, the level cache that we created, obviously. So we are good to go. So without any further ado, let's open the game and show you guys the benefits that you can have by obviously caching your old hard drive with I can say a pretty normal SSD. It's not an extreme SSD, although it's a 256 gigs, but you should expect the same performance even from a 30 or 60 gigabyte SSD. The important thing is that SSD that you are going to use, at least it must have higher speeds than your normal hard drive, because again, some SSDs might have almost the same speed as a fast hard drive these days, because there are some pretty bad SSDs. But yeah, anyway, I think the worst SSD out there might have at least 5 times the speed of a normal hard drive overall, because not practically in anything. But anyway, let's see. And I can see right away that I cannot hear anymore the hard drive working at all, except the first time when I loaded the game, because obviously the hard drive might work, so it can give the files to the cache. So let's go immediately to the benchmark here and see the results. And be prepared, guys, you will be amazed, because with the SSD cache on this hard drive, you will not be able to see even the loading bar when we go into the benchmark. Oh my god, I cannot speak. It's that much faster. And oh my god, you can see for yourself the benefits that you have from caching an old hard drive with not a very good SSD at the end of the day. So imagine if you have an NVMe drive, or imagine what you can get if you use a RAM as a cache for your hard drive. So yeah, let's jump back into the main menu, and now you will also see the loading time to go to the main menu. If you compare that to when we did with a normal hard drive, it's going to be way much faster. So yeah, guys, there you have it. I think that is proof that you can also get a very high improvement even from a normal hard drive that you can use as cache. And obviously you need to know that the more you use those files and the more those files get cached into the SSD, I think that with time those applications that you use the most are going to get even faster, maybe, potentially. So yeah, this is just a rough estimate that I'm doing in here, but you can definitely see the difference. And also, guys, let me point out something, because some of you guys, many of you might say that just use that 250 gig SSD that you have for your system and you will be good to go. But as I already mentioned, I already have a 500 gigabytes SSD, even better than this one, and I'm using it. And as you saw, we can still profit a huge speed from using an old SSD for to use that as cache for your normal hard drive. So we definitely know that if we use an SSD to have your system and your main applications there, that will be much faster than using it as a cache. But obviously, since we have our SSDs in small capacities, obviously we cannot have everything there. And I'm pretty sure, or let's say that I am very much sure that many people, or most of the people out there, have an SSD for the system and main applications, and then they have their games and their data on normal spinning hard drives. So that's why you can still profit from a small SSD to use that as a cache, or even profit more if you want to use your RAM cache if you have enough of that. So if anyone out of there that feels as a genius and might say that just use the SSD for your system, I am already using an SSD for my system and main applications. But as you saw with the SSD cache, the gains in performance are huge when loading applications, when loading games or other applications that you might have on your spinning hard drive. This means that when your system SSD gets filled up, you can still use your normal hard drive with a very small SSD cache to be able to have other applications that you use frequently. But you have to keep in mind that also, I don't think that is going to be a huge performance if you want to use professional applications. So if you go for professional applications, definitely you are going to get some speed gains when you load up the application. But as far as working on that application, then the normal spinning hard drive, even if you use a big cache, I think you are still going to be better to use that application directly installed on an SSD. So yeah, I just wanted to mention this. Okay, let's move on with the test. Okay, now I have deleted the cache, and if we go to Task Manager, Now you will see that the memory went down because obviously I deleted it. We have only some applications open, Epic Games, NVIDIA Broadcast, and obviously the recording application. That's why we are just a little bit over 5. But yeah, you get the idea. Okay, now we can close the Primo cache. Let's close it all together. Exit. And now we're going to see practically the speed of the Red Dead Redemption 2 game without the cache. Now you have to know that I'm going to put a countdown somewhere into the video, so I will not basically know the exact time, and I will start the timer after we get into the Rockstar games, because in here right now we are doing the login into the Rockstar Game Studio to be able to launch the game, and this requires internet, so this can affect the time which the game loads, because it depends on the internet speed. Especially in my case, since I have a public IP, now we will begin the clock somewhere around here. Especially for me, since I have a public IP and a shared IP, the internet speed changes very much. So usually you get different performance there when you log in into the Rockstar games. So that's why we will begin the test here. And I also have a video on my YouTube channel where you can see the comparison between a normal hard drive. We're going immediately to story mode and we're going to measure the total time. And now, to be fair, I have loaded the game before without the cache a couple of times, so the system can load up the files of the game with its own management on the cache, and obviously the hard drive itself has its own cache, so the system can have its time to load up the game on the cache that can do by default. And obviously the same thing I'm going to be doing after I enable the cache. So technically I will load up the game a couple of times, then get out and show you guys the real performance after you open the games many times. And I do this because, as I mentioned already, you need to the system need to learn what files need to go into the cache. So the more you use those files, the faster the time is going to be when you load up next time. Okay, so there we have it. Now we are into the game. As I mentioned, I'm doing this live, so I don't know the real time, but obviously we'll have the timer there. And now we're going to quit the game. Yes. And live again. Oh my god, this video is taking too long, sorry guys, but yeah, I want to do it as practically as possible. We're going to open again Primo cache. Okay, so now we're going to add another cache here. So again, the 1 terabyte drive. Next, 5.2. Okay, let's do 5 this time. It's enough for only write speed, so that's okay. We hit on start and we have created the cache now. So what I'm gonna do, obviously the app is going to remain here. I'm going to load up the game a couple of times so it will load up into the cache, and then I'm going to show you practically the gains that we will have after the game loads into the cache that we have just created. So yeah, catch you guys in a bit. Okay guys, I am back now. So unfortunately I noticed something, that when I open the game, unfortunately Red Dead Redemption is a pretty heavy game, so it goes almost to the maximum of my memory, which is not good. It's not going to have to help with the loading times, but anyway, this is going to be pretty amazing, believe me. Although this means that with no recording application running into the background and other application, the loading speeds are going to be way much faster than what you will see on a screen. But yeah, here we go. After a couple of loading times loading the game, now the game has gotten its files into the cache. And as I mentioned, the more you use the applications over time, the more the cache is going to fill up and the more the speed is going to be optimized over time. Theoretically, this is how it will work. Another thing that I want to mention also is that when I loaded the game for the first time after I created the cache, I could distinctly hear the, as you see, the loading screen on this bar is really fast. I could hear the load, the ticking of the hard drives when it was loading for the first time, because obviously the first time the hard drive must give the files to the cache to be able to fill it. But after that, the next 2 times when I loaded the game, the hard drive wasn't working at all. So even now I cannot hear the hard drive clicking or working at all, and this means that the caching works. The hard drive gave to the cache the files that it needed to have, and now it is loading those files from the cache. And now, believe me guys, you will see the difference from the time where we loaded the game from only the hard drive without the caching that we gave it from the RAM system. But yet again, this is going to be the best case by using the RAM, but believe me, if you use an SSD, it's going to be way much faster than a normal hard drive. And oh my god, there you have it guys. Unfortunately I cannot tell you the time because I don't have the timer, but obviously we'll see the timer on the screen, so you will be you will be amazed, believe me guys. And as I mentioned many times, so let me close the game first. So yeah, as I mentioned many times, I am using this application for about 20 days now. Yeah, 7 days left, so 23 days, and I'm really happy. Believe me guys that with time, loading times will get even better than this. Anyway, before I end the video, I need obviously to mention something, because although in synthetic benchmarks like Crystal Dismark you can get way over 100 times more performance out of your hard drive, we definitely need to know that in day-to-day use the gains are not going to be that much higher, because it depends on many factors. As I mentioned already, depends on the speed of the SSD that you're going to use as cache, on the speed of your RAM, how much RAM you can use, because with RAM, although the speed is going to be very good compared to what it was before, unfortunately the RAM, it fills up pretty quickly, and then when you shut down the system and when you reopen the system, the cache needs to fill up again to be able to get used. But anyway, if decide to use an SSD, an NVMe or RAM cache, if you have, the speed gain is going to be there for sure, especially if you have a high capacity as fast SSD. That is going to be, I think, the best case scenario, because the cache is going to be left there for a much longer. But anyway, we can say that technically the video and the thumbnail is a little bit clickbaity. That's why usually if you follow Linus Tech Tips, he usually says that what manufacturer, what BS manufacturer usually tells us. And yeah, technically with Primo Cache it's the same stuff. If you want to use RAM cache and see on the synthetic benchmark over 100 times loading, better speeds and so on. But yeah, technically that is not going to be the case, but maybe in similar workloads, maybe it might help with some very specific things. But yeah, anyway, let's not make this too long, because yeah, it usually definitely got too long. The gain is going to be there no matter what, so depends also on how you want to use the application, which settings do you choose there, how much obviously space do you have available. Maybe you want to use another application which works maybe a little bit different, might be better, might be worse. So it depends on many factors, but yet again, as I mentioned many times, the gains are going to be there with any loading speeds. As far as transfer speed and so on, that depends on other factors too, mainly on how much available space you have for cache, and how fast is that drive that you're going to use for cache. Yeah, what else? I don't think there is nothing else left to say. Pretty much we can do tests all day and it will be the same, guys. Obviously believe me on that. But yeah, I definitely ended to make this video longer than I thought. Unfortunately, as I usually do, I started to make the video short, but technically it ends to be long. But believe me guys, I just want to share with you guys practically everything, and I also want to make sure that I have covered all the things that you need to know. But definitely this is just the surface of what you can do with an application like that, with RAM, SSD and so on. So this means that if you guys want to see an in-depth review of this application, because as I told you, I might end up buying this application because it's really cheap in my opinion, and then I can use SSD cache or RAM cache for my normal hard drive, because I have two hard drives, 1 terabyte and another 2 terabyte drive, so I really need to speed them up, and I'm really happy with this application. But definitely you can use any other application. But anyway, again, if you want me to give you detailed information on how this application works in details, in different settings that you can set up in here and so on, I can definitely do another video specifically for that. But as you saw, you just installed the app, you go create a new partition, select your drive that you want to be cached, select the amount of RAM if you want to use the RAM, or select the SSD that you want to use as cache, and then you are good to go. You just hit OK, and it's all done without you changing anything, and you're going to speed up at least your read time. Okay then, so that is going to be a wrap for today. Thank you very much guys for being this long with this video. It really means a lot to me. As usual, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, also turn on notifications so you never miss one of my new videos. And yeah, definitely let me know in the comment section what you want me to see to make next, maybe with this case, because this is a very long topic and that's why this video ended to be longer than I thought, and I'm sorry about that, and I thank you if you are still here watching this video. Okay then, so yeah, that is going to be it for today. As usual, I will catch you guys on the next one. Bye bye.